All right. Well, hello, guys, and welcome to another author talk. I have for you today Nancy Erickson. Nancy and I went to Lindenwood University together. We were in the Masters of Fine Arts and Creative Writing program. And Nancy has gone on to do some very incredible things in the writing world. And because of her experience, I reached out and I said, Nancy, could you please share some insight with my students, specifically regarding publishing and getting started and things of that nature, because that is her area. So I'm very excited to bring her to you, and I hope that you enjoy what she has to say. Thank you. So, Nancy.
Well, Dacia, you said that we were in the program together. You have to make the distinction that we finished, we graduated, we got our master's degrees.
We did it.
Yeah, we did it.
That's true.
And it's been a long while since our graduation. So I'm just thrilled to reconnect with you.
Yes.
So one of the things that I did when we graduated, I joined the faculty at Lindenwood to teach writing. And at the same time, I also started a publishing house. And so I strictly work with nonfiction. And I know you guys are writing fiction, but the idea of publishing is kind of agnostic, based on your genre. So Dacia has asked me to speak to you about what is involved in publishing a book. And maybe I think where I first like to concentrate is talking about the big buzz in publishing, which is self-publishing. So what I want to stress to you is that self-publishing doesn't mean do-it-yourself publishing. It doesn't mean that you do the cover and you slap it all together and upload it on Amazon. Actually, a lot of people do that, but you're not going to do that, because that's the worst possible product that you could produce. Self-publishing means that you're in control of the entire process from beginning to end, and that you are responsible for hiring editors and proofreaders and design artists. And you'll need a different design artist for your cover versus the interior layout. And so it's really a big it's a big project that you know nothing about. And how would you know about it? So I'm going to describe the differences between self-publishing and professional publishing. And then I'm going to kind of point you in a direction that if you want to self-publish, who can give you help doing that. So I own what's called a hybrid publishing house. And what that means is the author contributes to the costs of publishing, but they also offload all of the services of publishing. So when a manuscript is finished, and in our world, finished means that it has been written and professionally edited, not edited by a friend of yours from class or by someone who had, majored in English in college, but a professional book editor. There are a lot of things involved in editing a book that if you haven't been trained as an editor, a book editor specifically, you really won't know how to do it. So the biggest important part is the quality of the words of your work. And so every great author has a fabulous, better editor. And so you really, really can't skip that step. So that's what we consider ready for publication when it's been professionally edited. So at Stonebrook Publishing, which is our publishing house, the first thing we do, two things at first simultaneously. First thing we do is start with doing the book cover, and the author is very involved in that. So we normally give them 4 or 5 book cover samples that are all original designs. And then the author can pick, okay, I really like this one. But then we take that one and then we tweak it so it's exactly what the author's looking for. They may like the font in version 2, but then want that over here. And, we can mix and match. But it's really important that we satisfy the author. The other thing we do simultaneously is we send the book through proofreading. And if you don't know what proofreading is, it's just making it absolutely picture perfect. It's not just correcting spelling or punctuation mistakes. It's looking for mismatch in which some things that should have been taken care of by your editor, but you don't want to start talking in one point of view, meaning first person, and then switch over to second person. And that's really important in your writing, which you'll come to learn if you haven't already. You don't start off saying, you never know what you're going to get when you go to pasta house. I got a, blah, 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 So, you just don't switch point of view within a paragraph. So proofreaders will catch that. And get this, proofreading is so important that we don't send it through one proofreader, we send it through three.
And that's exactly what Shannon told them as well. Shannon had, with Dream Spinner, he had 3.
Yep. And so we don't want to, everybody can't catch everything. And it's an enormous amount of work and we work as a team to get it picture perfect so that when we release the book, there are no errors in it. So once we do the cover and the proofreading, then we're ready to do the interior layout. And this is a completely different design skill than the cover design. We will take elements of that cover design and carry them forward through in the interior design and lay out the whole book.
Oh, wow.
And so here's the thing. We tell our authors that the time for you to make any changes is your last point of making editorial changes is at the proofreading point. We can still make changes when it's proofread. When we start laying it out, Betty, it is set in stone, because anything we change, like if we take out a paragraph up here, it affects all the other pages going down. So we really, there is definitely a stop time to your, editorial changes. Yeah. So then after it's all laid out and we have our files, we go through Lightning Source, which is an Ingram company. Now, Ingram is the largest book distributor in the world. All professional publishers issue through Ingram. And so what we do is we upload those digital files and we produce a proof copy. And there's one for the author and one for our team. And that's when we scour it again. It looks so much different when it's in book form than when it's like a document, a Word document. Mm-hmm. And, the author, we always catch something in there that we have to correct before we do the final thing. Right. So the author, will catch a few things, but our team is looking for the spacing between words and how things lay on the page. And, there's a lot of design things that we're looking for. So we always find more things in the author, but there's always a handful of them. So we make those final corrections and we re-upload the files and we release them for distribution, and bam, within a couple of days, things will populate on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and it'll get started picking up by other entities, maybe libraries or other bookstores, around the world has the opportunity to purchase it. So I want to back up for just a second. And okay, so what I just told you, that all applies to self-publishing too. So if you want to self-publish, you're in charge of all that, right? So that's a big role to take on. Mm-hmm. But what I want to back up and talk about is your ISBN, which is the International Standard Book Number. Every book has one. And every form of your book has to have a different ISBN. So if you're doing an ebook, it gets its own. If you're doing a print book, it gets its own. If you're doing a hardback book, it gets its own. And if you have an audio book, it gets its own ISBN. So here's what you might not know about ISBNs. The ISBN is tied to the publisher. The publisher purchases blocks of these ISBNs and we distribute them to our books. And every book that has our ISBN points back to the publishing house. Now, if you are self-publishing on Amazon KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing, I think it stands for, your ISBN is tied to Amazon. And that means that it announces that you're a self-published book. And so there's obviously more clout when you have a professional publisher. So the other thing that we do as a publishing house is when the book is released, we do the legal work to file your copyright with the Library of Congress. Now, your material is copyrighted the minute you write it, and you can put a little, TM, so you can say copyrighted on it and stuff. However, in order to protect your intellectual material, you have to register your copyright with the Library of Congress. And that's a legal process that we do for our authors. So that's what a hybrid publisher does. But there's even a further distinction, which is the big 5 publishing houses, which I have to say that there's very little opportunity to be published by them. They have their stable of writers, and we always have this big idea that everybody's going to love my book and is going to want it, and they're going to pay me this big advance, and I'm going to make a lot of money, and that's kind of a pipe dream. It happens on just about as often as you're selected to be the quarterback of a a major league football team.
Yeah, we can't all be Tom Brady, who's decided, oh, I don't want to be retired.
That's right.
Did you see that?
Did he decide that? No, I didn't.
I read that yesterday.
Oh gosh. Okay, well, I didn't know that. But let me tell you something. The good news is that with the advent of these hybrid publishers used to control the thoughts of the world. They got to decide who would be heard and who wouldn't, what messages would go out and what wouldn't. That's not the case anymore. We have a lot more opportunity than that. And that is a very good thing, that more voices are heard. But what you do with number one, in order to get in with the big publishing house, now you have to have an agent. And an agent selects you. You can submit to an agent and they will decide if they want to work with you. And then, of course, they're going to take a fee. I think it's 15% of whatever, you get, which is not going to be much for any kind of a first publication. But, and then they shop it to different publishers who decide if they want to buy it. It's a very long process. But in the event that you are selected by a publisher, then they have all the rights to the creative part of your book, meaning they're going to choose the title. They pick the cover and they just show it to you. They're going to decide when they're going to publish it. And it might be, okay, well, we have a backlog and maybe we'll publish this in 4 years. And then they also have the right to kill the project. So you may never get published, even though you have a contract with them. And in the meantime, you're sitting here with this body of work that is going nowhere. So hybrid publishers like Stonebrook Publishing have come up in order to serve the market that isn't being served. And we do a fabulous job. Many of our books are winning really prized awards. And I'm really proud of the work that we do. So there's so much involved in publishing. There's a lot to think about that if you don't know it, number one, don't feel bad that you don't know how to do it. How would you know? Right. This is a whole new world, and publishing is a really old profession. And there's a lot of standards to keep that you won't know about, So on the other hand, if you choose to self-publish and you don't know what to do, I highly recommend you go through a self-publishing company. And one that I have a really good alliance with is called BookBaby. And it's just bookbaby.com. And I've spoken at their conferences and done some joint things with them, and they do a really good job. They won't let you drop the ball on anything. They have a set process that they will walk you through in order to come, for editing. They have editors. I haven't seen any of the books they edited, so I don't know what quality it is, but I do know that they really produce some really nice books, and will get you out there on Amazon, so which is where most people buy their books. I'm trying to think, Dacia, if there's anything else to talk about in terms of publishing. Oh, here's an idea for you. Dacia and I have a friend from grad school who has been published over 200 times in literary magazines. And his name's Keith Horner. Maybe sometime you guys get to meet him. But when we were in school, we were directed toward a website called Duotrope that it's Duotrope. I don't know if have you all talked about that, Dacia, in class
we
yet?
haven't.
Yeah. So Duotrope can help you find literary magazines who are interested in publishing your genre.
Right.
And hopefully you know what genre you're writing in. I mean, horror is different than romance, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah. So that's another good place to start getting your feet wet in terms of getting some maybe short stories.
I know the one that I had used the most was poetsandwriters.org, pw.org. Learning about that one.
I'm kind of out of that loop because we just do nonfiction, Right. So so there's a lot of good, and then Writer's Digest is a great place. Hopefully you guys are familiar with that. So a good place to write. So I think first what you need to decide is, what genre did I write in, because it has to match. I mean, you do a little homework to figure out if don't waste your time making submissions, because sometimes it costs money to submit.
You have to do the research on all of these different publishers and make sure that they are looking for what you have written, and make sure that they're accepting simultaneous submissions, or if they're not, or a lot of different, and when they're accepting submissions and if they're open, and there's so many different. I remember we had one class where we had to make a chart, like we had to dig into multiple publishers and then chart out all of the different characteristics of the different places. And it was mind-blowing to me. I was like, what do you mean this is complicated? Why does this have to be complicated?
It is complicated. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but here's the thing, nobody's going to find you. Nobody's going to find you. They can't find you. It's like a needle in a haystack. So you need to be proactive about getting your work out there. Okay, because listen, why do writers write? We write to be read, yes. not to have it sitting in our computer. So submit stuff, get rejected, yes. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
That's right. We've talked some about developing a thicker exoskeleton so that, you can just take all those rejections in and just keep going, learn from them, keep growing, and
a lot of times they'll give you suggestions. They'll tell you why.
I talked to them about our peer review process and how it alone in our workshopping was so just like, to have 13 people sitting in a room.
I've left peer reviews in tears before.
To have 13 people sitting, I remember that. To have 13 people sitting there and critiquing your work is in front of you while you say nothing.
And you have to pretend like you're not there. You say nothing.
But it was one of the most vitally important experiences I've ever had.
Yes.
Because it taught me to take a punch. It taught me to listen and to not think that I had all the answers. Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly.
It was wonderful. So
exactly.
I'm so grateful.
I don't know if you guys do that in your class, but
we haven't had an opportunity, Nancy. Our class is online strictly.
And okay.
That frustrates me. I'm pushing at the school to get it to be an on-ground class because we really do need to have that interactive face-to-face.
Yeah. Well, I told you that I'm a Tulsa girl, right? I grew up in Tulsa, so I have a fondness for where you are.
I love it here.
Yeah.
It's an excellent place. Nancy, I know that your time is short. I so appreciate your time. You guys, I encourage you. She has a website, thebookprofessor.com. I encourage you to get on there and to read about Nancy and what the Book Professor does. See what else that you can.
Yeah, and you can subscribe to our blog. Our blog is all about writing tips and stuff, so it's fun.
Yeah. I highly recommend that you do that. That you give Nancy a listen and that you dig in and see what else that she has to teach you. You guys, she's a wealth of information. So please check out the Book Professor. I'm grateful to know Nancy. I know I follow her on LinkedIn, so I keep up with what she's got going on, and it's super exciting. It's interesting to me how so many of us have gone different directions with the writing world, and It's
but
fascinating.
but using our degree,
Yes,
in various ways. So it's really
absolutely.
cool. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I
like one of
am.
our friends is a librarian. Another one, I own a publishing house. Many of us are teaching.
That's
It
right.
just, yeah.
That's right. It's very exciting. But I am reaching out to Keith, who she mentioned, and hopefully we can get Keith in here and get him sharing some information with you all about, especially about his short stories. He is an incredible guy. So
Yeah,
um, we had some great people go through that program, and it
we
was
have we have a lot of good. Yeah, we worked hard, and then we were serious about using what we learned. So,
yes, yes.
right. Well,
Oh,
thank you, Dacia, for
thank
having me on.
you.
I really
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Nancy. It's
You're
wonderful to see
welcome.
you. All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.